Riekoff is here, host of the Independent Americans podcast. So it's good to see you, Paul. You feeling yippy today, or not a little yippy, as he says?
I think yippy is the understatement of the week. I mean, people were freaking out across the country. And I don't think Trump has ever gotten it from all political sides like he has in the last 48 hours.
Yeah. Take the regular people out of it for a second, because I mentioned Don Bacon, right? And this kind of Republican is interesting to me in a lot of ways. You have him on your podcast this week, right?
Yep.
Congressman from Nebraska, Nebraska 2. So that's like Democrats win there in the elections. What are people like that thinking? Because maybe they changed their thinking now that the pause is in effect, but they wanted to take back some of this power from the president that presidents didn't used to have.
I think that's right. I mean, Don Bacon's a moderate. He's in a district that went to Harris and Biden in the last 2 elections, but he's also a retired Air Force general. He's bucked Trump on Ukraine and other issues. We had a really good conversation, but he's introducing, a tariff bill in the House to try to restrain presidential power. I think that's the angle Republicans are taking here. They're not specifically focusing on Trump, but talking about reining in presidential power. And he's not just getting it from moderates. I mean, he's getting it from everybody across the political spectrum. In a way, I don't think he even got in his last term. This might have been the toughest 48 hours for him politically because of the way the markets responded, the way business community responded, people in his own party and even in his own administration responded. And so it felt like he really went off the tracks even more than usual. And today he's back on track and focused on China, which is very popular, especially with moderates and independents, and seems like he's got more focus.
That's the point I was making to Niall a few minutes ago, is that if you're going to have, if you're going after everybody, especially if your numbers don't work, and just about everybody agreed those numbers did not work that he put up on the board. I mean, people who support the president, people who used to work for him were saying, so now you're in a different situation, right? Because you're 10% across the board, right? And a lot of people, bipartisan, support going after China. So now it's a completely different dynamic where the president actually could come out of this with some success, maybe accomplish some of his goals. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, and he's naming an unpopular bad guy. China's generally unpopular, generally viewed as an adversary by most Americans. And instead of picking on, penguins in Madagascar or the Canadians, this is a lot more focused. It makes a lot more sense. It's a narrative that people are used to. They're used to hating on China, right? They're used to the Republicans being strong on China. And there's a national security element here. They are still our biggest adversary globally, militarily, and it happens the same week where some Chinese citizens were captured in uniform inside Ukraine. So China is back in the spotlight and back in the focus. I think that's good for our economy so far. It's probably good for our national defense, and it's good for Donald Trump's politics.
Yeah, Trump mentioned Jamie Dimon doing that interview today. That one of the things he had talked about was the relationship between trade policy. Sometimes we get lost in the weeds of the economics of trade policy. It's important stuff, not always the most exciting stuff, but it's been lately. And national security, to your point, that the two often, if you look back at history, they do go hand in hand.
Yeah, and people want some stability. I mean, in the markets and in national security, chaos, tumult, this constant mayhem is not good for anybody's blood pressure or for our national security or for the market. And I think it's been isolated to national security a lot of this time, but now that it's shifted over into our economy, into the markets, into people's 401k, they don't like it. And especially independents, half the country are independents. They want to see stability. They want some predictability. And the global order wants some stability, whether it's around the dollar or what we're going to do with our troops in Europe. They want to see a plan and some stability, and they want to know they can count on America, whether it's on our troops or on our dollar. They want to know that America is stable and reliable.
I did think that was an interesting question that the president received from one of the reporters there. Said, what about your credibility, Mr. President? You said you wouldn't do this, you wouldn't pause, and that kind of thing. And the president's answer was, well, you need to have flexibility. In other words, I'm always going to have flexibility, but you bring up trust and American credibility in all of this. Damage done. How do you look at it?
I mean, maybe he's bouncing off bottom here, and last week was bottom, or maybe this is a new normal where it's up and down constantly. I mean, they also said prepare for pain was last week. It's going to be some short-term pain. Everybody should get used to pain. Now it's flexibility. Maybe that's the term they're going to use this week. But I think people want stability. I'm going to keep coming back to that. When you mess with the economy, you mess with people's 401k, it doesn't matter how popular you are politically, and it's compounded by prices and fears of inflation, it's going to hurt you.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.